Okay, we're going to do some practice for the optional inverse and matrix multiplication quiz. So we'll start by finding a couple of inverses. So the way that problem looks is you're going to be given a matrix like this, just some random matrix, and it's going to say find A inverse. Okay, and that's going to be a new matrix. That will be your answer. So whatever we put in here is the answer to the question. Now, to find the inverse, remember from your notes, is a two-step process. The first thing we have to do is to find the determinant. Now, you've already taken a quiz over this. You know how to find the determinant. We take 1 times 7. We take 5 times 2. And we subtract those. So 7 minus 10. So my determinant is -3. That is step 1. Now, step 2 is to find the inverse. Step 2 is we're simply going to make a new matrix by taking these two numbers right here that I'm pointing at, these two right here, and switching them. So the 7 and the 1 switch places, and then the negative, or the 5 and the 2 both become negative. So since these are positive numbers, they become negative. If they were negative numbers, they would become positive. These two numbers simply get their signs changed. Now, once you have that new matrix made, you simply divide each of the numbers in there by your determinant. So you're going to put all these over -3. If any fractions reduce them. None of these reduce. So my answer is just going to be -7/3, +2/3, because I do have a negative over a negative. Here's another negative over negative, so 5/3, and -1/3. And that is your inverse. Okay, now I'm going to do one more, but of course you can go back and re-watch these as many times as you need to in order to get the steps figured out. Okay, so let's try another one. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're only going to be using 2 by 2s, so don't worry about having a bigger matrix. This is it. This is what you're going to have on your optional quiz on Friday. You're going to be finding the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix. So here's some random 2 by 2 matrix, just made up the numbers, nothing special. Step 1, find the determinant. So 3 times -2, 8 times -6, and subtract them. So this is going to be -6 plus 48. Now, it's plus because it's -6 minus -48. So that gives me a determinant value of 42. Now remember, that's only half the answer. To get the rest of the answer, you have to make a new matrix. So these two numbers right here where I'm pointing switch places. They don't change at all. They just switch places. So the -2 comes up here, the 3 comes down here. These guys stay right where they're at, but if they're negative, they become positive. If they're positive, they become negative. So the 6 and the 8 stay where they are, but they change sign. Now we take each of those numbers and divide by 42, which was our determinant. Now all of these are going to reduce, so you'll have to just do it carefully. 2 over 42 would be -1 over 21. Now 6 over 42, that's a big reduce there. That becomes 1/7. 8 over 42, 2 goes into both of those, so -4 over 21. And 3 over 42 is 1 over 14. Because 3 goes into 42 14 times. And there is the answer to the question. The process is very, very easy. You do have to be careful with your arithmetic. And that's that. So one problem on your optional quiz on Friday is finding the inverse. The other problem is doing some matrix multiplication. So that looks like this. You got a couple matrices, and you're going to multiply them together. I'm making these problems up, or I made them up a few minutes ago. They're not on any sheet anywhere. Just write them down on your paper or your whiteboard. And we're going to multiply these. Now, here's the thing about multiplication. If you remember from your notes, and from, it seems like we've done infinitely many of these in Flex, the first thing you have to do is check your dimensions. So this guy is a 2 by 2, 2 rows, 2 columns. This guy is a 2 by 2, 2 rows, 2 columns. And now we're going to multiply them together because these match. Remember, if those inside dimensions match, then you can multiply. And your answer is going to be another 2 by 2 because these give you the dimensions of the answer. All right, so here we go. In order to multiply, I like to give myself a little hint down here. I know I'm going to get a 2 by 2 answer, so it's going to have 2 rows and 2 columns. Those are answer blanks. Those aren't anything else. They're not part of the answer. I just know that I'm going to need 4 numbers. I need to figure out 4 numbers to be part of my product or part of my answer. This number is in the first row, first column. This one is in the first row, second column. Second row, first column, second row, second column. Remember, rows go this way, so both of these numbers are in the first row. This one's in the first column, that one's in the second column. These are not part of the answer. I'm going to erase them in a minute. But to fill that blank right there that's in the first row, first column, I am going to multiply the first row and the first column. So I'm going to write down the numbers in the first row, which are 5, 1. That's the first row. And then next to them, I'm going to write the numbers in the first column. So here are my row numbers. Here are my column numbers. And I'm going to add them together. So that's -5 plus 5. That one's just a 0. So that first blank there, first row, first column, is a 0. Now, I want to fill that spot. That is in the first row, second column. So now I'm going to be using my second column. Notice that I only use rows of the first matrix, and I only use columns of the second matrix. Rows, columns. So now I'm going to take my first row, which is 5, 1, and I'm going to multiply each of those by the numbers in the second column. 1, -4. So I have 5 times 1 and 1 times -4. So I'm going to add those together. That's 5 minus 4. So that's a 1. Now, I'm going to go to my second row, because now I'm filling that spot, which is in the second row. So now I'll be using the 2 and the 3, and the first column, the -1 and the 5. Second row, first column, second row, first column. So I will write down my 2 and my 3, and then I will write down my -1 and 5. And I'm going to add those together. So negative 2, positive 15, added together give me a 13. So that's negative 2 and positive 15. Add them together, I get 13. And then finally, I need that last blank over there filled in. And that's in the 2, 2 spot, the second row, second column. So I write down my second row, my second column. Oop, that's a positive one, sorry. And I'm going to add those together. So I get 2 times 1, 3 times negative 4, so 2 minus 12. So that guy is a negative 10. And that is the answer, or that is, the number that goes in that blank. And this, then, is your answer. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, so let's do this one. Okay, now remember, this is a multiplication problem. That's what it means when there's no symbol in there. It means we're going to multiply them. But the first thing we need to do is write down the dimensions, because not everybody can be multiplied. So here we go. This one is a 2 by 3. It has 2 rows, 3 columns. This one is a 2 by 2. It has 2 rows and 2 columns. Oops! These do not match. If they do not match, then you cannot multiply them. So, the answer is, can't be multiplied. Either empty set, dimensions don't match, can't multiply. However you want to express that, this problem is not doable. All right. Let's try one more, and maybe it will be doable. Let's see. I'm going to take the same 2 matrices that I just had, but I'm going to put them in the other order. So I'm going to put them like this. There's my 2 by 2. And then here's my 2 by 3. So these are the same 2 I had a minute ago, but now I have them in a different order. Now I have the 2 by 2 times the 2 by 3. Is that a doable problem? Yes, it is, because those match. And then, so we are going to multiply this. This one is going to get multiplied. And the answer is going to be a 2 by 3. So the answer is going to have 2 rows and 3 columns. So the answer is going to be that size. It's going to be another 2 by 3. The outside, these two have to match. The circled ones have to match. These tell me how big my answer is. So I'm going to go ahead and put my super secret code in. First row, first column. First row, second column. First row, third column. Second row, first. Second row, second. Second row, third. Remember, those numbers are not part of the answer. All right, so here we go. I'm going to fill that first blank right there. So to do that, I am going to multiply the first row of numbers times the first column of numbers. First row, first column. So here I go. First row, first column. And then I'm going to add them. So 1 minus 4, 1 plus negative 4 gives me a negative 3. That first blank is a negative 3. Now I'm going to move over and do my second column because this says first row, second column. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my 1 and 4 again for my first row, but now 2 and 1. So 2 plus 4, I'm multiplying 1 times 2, multiplying 4 times 1, and adding 2 plus 4, that's 6. So that number is a 6. And then finally, first row, third column. I'm going to keep my first row, so I'm still doing 1 and 4. But now I'm doing 3 and 5. So 1 times 3, 4 times 5, add them up. So that's going to be 23. All right, now I'm moving to the second row. First column. So now I'm going to start with a 2 and a 7. I'm going to go ahead and erase these numbers so we don't get confused. I'm now using my second row, so I'm starting with the 2 and the 7. And I'm going to pair them up with the 1 and the negative 1. So 2, positive 2, negative 7. So that's going to be a negative 5. Now I'm moving over, still second row, but now second column. So I still have my 2 and my 7, but now I have my 2 and my 1. So I have 4 and 7, 2 times 2, 7 times 1, 4 plus 7, so that is going to be 11. And finally, the last position down here, second row, but now I need my third column. So that'll be my 2 and my 7, and then my 3 and my 5. So 6 plus 35. That's a 6. That's a 35. So that one is going to be, what is that, 41? So that last spot is 41. And there is the answer to the question. So that's it for the practice quiz, but go back and study those notes. If you need to practice some more, there are lots of examples in the notes. Have a great day.